You know, there are no words to say what Jacques Demers has meant to the NHL and WHA. Unfortunately, he's been a health decline in recent years, but what he's done as a coach, assistant coach, as a developer, as a motivator, he is. I consider him the most underrated head coach in hockey history because no matter where he went, he left it better than it was. We're talking the WHA teams, Quebec Nordiques, the Farrington Express, the St. Louis Blues, Detroit Red Wings, Montreal Canadiens, Tampa Bay Lightning. Wherever he went, Jacques Demers stirred the drink in relation to his players and team. And that Miracle Cup in '93, it has Demers' fingerprints all over it. So the native of Montreal, born the day before my birthday, August 25th, 44, is also a former Canadian senator, a former broadcaster, and former, again, pro ice hockey coach. After a lengthy coaching career at the WHA and the NHL, he became an analyst for Montreal Canadiens games on RDS. On October 27, 2009, he was nominated by Prime Minister Stephen Harper to fill the Canadian Senate seat vacated by Johan Goldstein. Senator Demers represented the Conservative Party in the Senate until December 2015, when he resigned from the Conservative caucus in order to sit as an independent in the Independent Senators Group. On his 75th birthday on August 25th, 2019, he left his position as senator. Now, two of the franchises Demers helped coach in the WHA were the Chicago Cougars, where his popularity started to build, and of course the Quebec Nordiques. Additionally, he was the exceedingly popular coach of Indy Racers, which won the Eastern Division Championship under his guidance. Now, Demers has coached many players over the years and had the opportunity to guide Wayne Gretzky in the 1979 WHA All-Star Series. The format of the series was a three-game set that pitted the WHA All-Stars against HC Moscow Dynamo. Demers asked Gordie Howe if it was okay to put him on a line with Wayne Gretzky and his son Mark Howe. In Game 1, the line scored 7 points as the WHA All-Stars won 4-2. In Game 2, Gretzky and Mark Howe each scored a goal, and Gordie picked up an assist as the WHA won 4-2. The line unfortunately did not score in the final game, but the WHA won the set and the series by a score of 4-3 with 3-0 games. Now, while in the NHL, he coached the Nordiques, the Blues, the Red Wings, the Canadiens, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. He won 2 consecutive Jack Adams Awards as NHL Coach of the Year with Detroit in both 87 and 88. Now, before he arrived and Steve Yzerman arrived, Detroit was well in the wilderness and they had no success. They were not making the playoffs or not even affected the regular season. But as soon as Demers arrived, they made the playoffs for the first time in almost a half decade, and it was onward and upward, which led to the Cups a decade later. He is still the only person in the Word in consecutive years. He was also responsible for naming longtime Red Wing Steve Yzerman as captain. In '93, in his miracle year in Montreal, he led the Habs to their most recent Stanley Cup. Only 2 years later, however, the Canadiens missed the playoffs altogether for the first time since 1970. And after a 0-5 start at the beginning of the '96 campaign, Demers was fired. Now, while in Tampa Bay, he was responsible for guiding Vincent Lecavalier through his first 2 years in the NHL. He displayed a fatherly attitude towards the young star, after putting him aside during practice to lecture him in their native French. During the '89-'90 season, he also served as the Lightning's general manager. Now, in 2007, he was named the 100th most influential personality in hockey by the Hockey News. So in the WHA, again, assistant coach and kind of GM with Chicago in the mid-1970s. He's first season as a head coach in Indianapolis, 34-25-6, first in the East, but he lost in the quarterfinals to New England. In '77, they won the division semifinals 4-0 versus Cincinnati, but lost to eventual Avco Cup champions Quebec in the division finals. Now, Cincinnati, 33-93 and 78, he was eventually fired. But he's found his way back to his native Quebec in '79 by going 41-34-5 as he lost in the WHA semifinals against eventual Avco Cup champion Winnipeg. Now, his first year in the NHL was with Quebec in 1980, 25-44-11, a building season. They were fifth in the Adams division. Now, he went back to the AHL, or the minors, like we say, in the 82 season with the popular Fredericton Express. He won 20, 55, and 5 in his first season. He didn't make the playoffs. For the second campaign, he finished first in the North Division, 45, 27, and 8. They bet Adirondack in the first round, but lost in the division finals to Maine. Now, back to the NHL in 84 with St. Louis. They were second in the North Division and made us all the way to the quarterfinals. 1985, they were first in the North, but lost in the semifinals of the division to Minnesota. But this was the big year, ladies and gentlemen. 86 almost made it to the Stanley Cup final. They won their division series 3-2 against Minnesota, knocked off Toronto in the quarterfinals, and came within literally one period of beating Calgary. Can you imagine a Jacques Demers against Montreal Canadiens final in 86? He lost to Calgary 4-3. Now he moved to Detroit in 87. Here's where they got groovy. They won the first two rounds of the series against Chicago and Toronto after being second in the North, but lost the conference finals to eventual Stanley Cup champion Edmonton. Now, first in 88 again for Detroit, bet Toronto and St. Louis all the way to conference finals, but lost again to the eventual Stanley Cup champions Edmonton 4-1. 89, lost in the division final to Chicago, and 1990 eventually missed the playoffs. His first year in Montreal, again, the overtime season, he went 16-4 in the playoffs, winning almost a dozen games in overtime, knocking off Quebec, Buffalo, the Islanders, and LA, despite 102 points. His best NHL season, he was third in the Adams. 94, he lost in the conference finals against Boston, 41-29-14. And the truncated 95 season, Montreal won 18, 23, and 7, 6 in the Northeast. 96, fired after going 0-5, and back to the NHL in 98, 15, 40, and 8 in 98, and in 99, 19, 54, and 9, fourth in the Southeast, like building a career. Now, the wins in the NHL, he doesn't have a winning record, 1,006 games, 409 wins, 467 losses, 130 ties or overtime losses, 3 division titles, 1 Stanley Cup, 54-43 in the postseason. With the WHA, 144, 145, and 22, 1 division title, 8-12 in the playoffs. Now in the AHL, 6-6 in the playoffs, 1 division title, 65, 82, and 13. Now, after his career behind the bench, he decided to release a autobiography written by Mary Leclerc entitled "En toutes lettres," all spelled out, in which he revealed to the public for the first time he is functionally illiterate. According to Demers, he never really learned to read or write because of his abusive childhood in Montreal. He eventually covered for himself by asking secretaries and PR people to read letters for him, claiming he could not read English well enough to understand them, though he speaks English and French fluently. When he served as GM of the Lightning, he brought in Cliff Fletcher and Jay Feaster as assistants. As it turned out, they did most of the work a GM would normally do because Demers knew he could not do it himself. Now, on August 28, 2009, CBC Radio 1 reported that Demers was to be a senator. According to CBC report, he has raised awareness about literacy issues by going public with his own struggles. A series of Montreal residents were interviewed regarding his Senate appointment and were generally positive about the move. However, many noted that it was important that he learn to read. Now, he served in the Senate until retirement. Now, unfortunately, on July 5th, 2010, he was reported to be in stable condition after undergoing 2 emergency surgeries. He was also hospitalized after he experienced a stroke in April 2016, and he remained in stable condition in a Montreal hospital. In October of that year, he was hospitalized for a serious infection, but since his 2016 stroke, which was why we don't see him in public very often, he has been living with aphasia. Now, a Hall of Famer, inaugural inductee to the WHA Hall of Fame, the coaching category. He was also named the honorary lieutenant colonel of the Canadian Grenadier Guards, a Montreal-based Canadian Army Primary Reserve Infantry unit. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, Jacques Demers is hockey in 2024. Although he's not coaching anymore, although illness has brought him down a little bit, he is basically considered one of the most important figures in the NHL universe. Now, he's also been awarded the title of Knight de l'Ordre de la Pléiade in 2013. Well, we talked about that. So numerous committee appointments, and again, independent Senate group for sure. Now, the idea about Jacques Demers, he was always about getting the best out of his players, and you would see him with Stevie Y, LeCavier, Bellows, Muller, the WHA players. He's been through the wars and lived to tell the tale. And like I said, he's a 500 coach technically, all career, but he's much more than his record shows. So Jacques Demers, again, happy days, brother, on Father's Day. You're a father of many hockey players in the NHL, and what will the NHL would have been like without you? And you developed all those WHA players just by your presence, because people had to outcoach you to win those games. So to learn how to coach to get you. I'm not joking. But he was around such great people through the years. Serge Savard, Maurice Filion, the Illiches in Detroit. It's amazing the travels in hockey. And there's a story when he was in Frankton. He just, like I said, he just considers himself a common guy. I guess he was at a gas station in Frankton, and a lot of people came up to him and said, "Are you Jacques Demers?" He said, "Who else would I be?" So, but look at the people that succeeded him: Jacques Martin, Maurice Filion, Brian Murray, Mario Tremblay, Steve Ludzik, Rick Dudley. Dudley's been a big, lot of put it. But the GM again, Esposito in Tampa Bay, Rick Patterson in Tampa Bay. He replaced Pat Burns in Montreal. He replaced Brad Park as head coach of the Red Wings. He replaced Barclay Plager, again, head coach of the Blues. So he's been, part of a great group of people. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing here with our hockey tributes, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, hockey is much more than just about the players, the coaches, the assistant coaches, the goalie coaches. It takes a full team to win the Stanley Cup, and hopefully Florida will learn that in game 5, because he didn't show up in game 4. I think Jacques Demers would have talked to him very heavily after the contest. Thanks for listening. Bye.